Global warming appears to be intensifying. Will we be able to stop it before it's too late? In a concerted effort to seek solutions to the climate change crisis, 200 countries and regions come together every year at an international conference called COP27. In 2022, the gathering was held in Egypt. As extreme weather roils countries around the world, from massive floods in Pakistan and severe droughts in Africa, a key focus at this meeting was the financial and physical damage caused by global warming. Developing nations have been pressing industrialized economies to take greater responsibility for past greenhouse gas emissions, underscoring a deep divide between the two sides. A major cause of abnormal weather patterns is greenhouse gases. Unless these emissions are reduced, stopping global warming is impossible. Amid this, a key word that's attracting attention is decarbonization. It refers to moves to achieve net zero emissions of carbon dioxide, accounting for most greenhouse gases. To meet this goal, a certain project has been launched in Japan.
We're going to speed up efforts to realize a carbon-free society.
In 2021, Nikkei established the Nikkei Net Zero Committee, bringing together 13 companies from across different industries. We explore how this project aims to realize a carbon-free society and the initiatives of Japanese companies. As countries around the world accelerate efforts to go carbon-free, Japan was ranked the 5th biggest global emitter of carbon dioxide in 2019. The average annual temperature has increased 1.5 degrees Celsius in the past 120 years. The Japanese government has launched an initiative to achieve net zero emissions by 2050 by absorbing greenhouse gases through methods such as tree planting and forestry management, and declared a commitment to realizing carbon neutrality. The Nikkei Net Zero Committee started amid this backdrop. What is its primary objective? We spoke with committee chair Professor Yukari Takamura of the University of Tokyo Institute for Future Initiatives.
Toward the goal of carbon neutrality by 2050, we've invited as committee members executives of companies taking the lead in implementing innovative solutions, as well as experts in the field, and are holding regular meetings and discussions to promote these efforts among the public and accelerate moves across society to achieve carbon neutrality.
Carbon neutrality by 2050 cannot be realized without the cooperation of companies, and the government also has high hopes for this project.
Decarbonization is linked to corporate value. As the government, we are committed to promoting investment in the decarbonization efforts of companies to drive economic growth and social development. We ask all of you for your cooperation.
The meetings, which will be held 15 times every year, will involve exchanging the latest information and discussions on establishing an inter-corporate network and methods to achieve a carbon-free society. What's more,
We also have subcommittees to discuss themes such as biodiversity and natural capital, finance and disclosure, and energy, as well as the circular economy and carbon neutrality.
in the meetings, participating companies openly discuss the specific initiatives they are pursuing. Let's now take a look at what some of the companies participating in the project are doing to go carbon-free. Coca-Cola Japan aims for carbon neutrality by reusing resources. The company, together with domestic bottlers and related firms, has set an independent reduction target for greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. In addition to the adoption of renewable energy sources and enhancing the efficiency of its own plants and distribution, the company says it is also focusing on reducing greenhouse gases emitted from its packaging operations and vending machines.
We make new plastic bottles from used ones. From bottle to bottle, we're carrying out what's called horizontal recycling.
Bottle to bottle refers to collecting used plastic bottles, recycling them, and manufacturing new plastic bottles. Recycling something back into the same product is known as horizontal recycling. This is how it works. Used plastic bottles collected from households and businesses are removed of their labels, caps, and rings, cleaned of stains and impurities, put into shredders, and processed into 100% recycled polyethylene terephthalate, or PET resin. This material is used to mold plastic bottles. It's a recycling system to breathe new life into old products. How big of a contribution can this initiative make to CO2 reduction?
We calculate a 60% CO2 reduction per plastic bottle.
In addition,
We're also reducing the packaging weight by using less plastic.
in fact, they've already made 700 milliliter plastic bottles 15 grams lighter, from a total weight of 42 grams in 2021 to 27 grams. While retaining its durability and safety, the weight was lowered by an equivalent of more than 2 500 yen coins. But that's not all they're doing to lessen their reliance on resources.
This is a label-less product.
Surprisingly, they've done away with even the label displaying the product name. Coca-Cola has a history of more than a century. Their packaging, which has constantly changed with the times, is evolving once again toward a carbon-free era.
Newly made petroleum-derived plastics have been reduced by about 29,000 tons. In terms of 500 milliliter plastic bottles, that's equivalent to 700 million bottles. This is also contributing to CO2 reduction, which on an annual basis reaches about 26,000 tons.
One company in the insurance industry is developing a new product geared toward a carbon-free society.
It's called Imbalance Risk Compensation Insurance and covers what's called unforeseen imbalances when renewable energy producers and aggregators are unable to meet planned electricity output due to various factors and need to procure energy from other sources at above market costs. Such additional costs are a risk for them, which we can offset with our imbalance risk insurance.
A company participating from the financial industry spoke about a new initiative to support decarbonization.
We're developing financing for industry research groups and think tanks to leverage their capabilities to formulate strategies and fund initiatives. We will provide end-to-end support. We're making efforts to also invest in new challenges taken on by our customers, technologies and sustainable projects, thereby sharing the risks of such endeavors.
A securities trading firm made a point about moves by investors in companies starting to focus on decarbonization.
Regarding bonds that investors have bought as environmentally beneficial, last fiscal year issuance exceeded $810 million and is expected, at this point, to more than double to $2.1 billion during this fiscal year. We believe investors are putting importance on the impact of such initiatives, what kind of transition is underway, and whether green projects will really reduce CO2 emissions. And we think it will become increasingly vital for us to look at these issues from such perspectives.
This condominium, which received a Good Design Award in fiscal 2021, was actually built in 1977, more than 45 years ago. They applied an exceptionally unique renovation method that also achieved a high level of carbon neutrality, drawing interest from beyond the construction industry. It's called
refining architecture. That's how this property was renovated.
Refining architecture is a renovation method conceived by architect Shigeru Aoki. The process of renovating the interior and exterior of an entire building is no different than that used under conventional methods. But the biggest characteristic is that more than 80% of the existing structures, such as the beams and pillars, are reused. They say that significantly reduces construction timeframes. What's more, since structures are repaired and reinforced according to current seismic standards, they can be considered practically new buildings from a legal standpoint. And what about the decarbonization effect of this refining architecture method?
With the cooperation of Shigeru Aoki Architect and Associates, we conducted a joint study with the University of Tokyo and concluded that CO2 is reduced by 72% compared to rebuilding a property.
Typically, when rebuilding a property, CO2 emissions from the manufacture of structural materials reaches 1,761 tons. That compares to 40 tons for refining architecture, meaning a total difference of 1,721 tons.
CO2 emissions from energy use account for 85% of Japan's greenhouse gas emissions. So you could say that the issue of carbon neutrality is mostly equal to the issue of energy decarbonization.
A major issue in particular is the transition from fossil fuels. What are companies doing in this regard?
We are working to transition our coal-fired boilers to gas and moving toward using sources such as LNG. We're also focusing on renewable energy and energy conservation. We have 570,000 hectares of forests in Japan and overseas, and we plan to increase that by 140,000 hectares, primarily overseas, to absorb more CO2.
Major ceramics manufacturer NGK Insulators is aiming to contribute to a carbon-free society by using proprietary technologies.
One product we have big hopes for is called ceramic film. This is a product that can separate gases at a molecular level. It can also be used to separate and collect CO2 from industrial exhaust gases and retrieve CO2 from the air. Additionally, we have the capability to produce hydrogen and convert fuel through methanation. With our CO2 and hydrogen cycle, we believe NGK Insulators can contribute to many different fields.
Miura is a company headquartered in Matsuyama City, Ehime Prefecture, developing and manufacturing products such as boilers. It is addressing the energy problem with ideas unique to outlying regions.
The cost of conventional fossil fuels is going up, and when thinking about alternative energy, sources that may have been a bit out of reach start to enter the scope of possibility. We also thought about whether to continue using methane, how heat is supplied, and also using hydrogen as well as ammonia. We are working to convert energy that's locally produced and used into heat.
Other companies are also eyeing ammonia as a next-generation fuel to replace coal. JERA is Japan's biggest power producer, supplying electricity to about 30% of the country. For an energy company overseeing LNG and fuel procurement to thermal power plant operations and electricity generation, reducing CO2 emissions is a pressing problem.
As the biggest domestic power company, we emit a lot of CO2. So we need to take the lead in reducing emissions And we believe we have that responsibility. As long as we don't reduce CO2 emissions, Japan's CO2 emissions won't fall. We are resolved in taking action to address this problem.
They have made a firm commitment, but what methods are they employing?
Renewable energy is especially important in terms of decarbonization, as it doesn't produce CO2, but at the same time, depending on natural conditions, electricity output can rise or fall, so it has that disadvantage. That drawback is currently being offset by thermal power. But thermal power has a big weakness in that when fuel is burned, it produces CO2. So we decided, why not build a thermal power plant that doesn't emit CO2?
Japan's biggest power producer, JERA, is developing an innovative new technology to go carbon-free.
Ammonia is co-fired with coal.
Coal makes up about 30% of thermal power generation in Japan. Ammonia co-firing refers to a technology to burn ammonia, which doesn't produce CO2, together with coal to reduce emissions. They say CO2 emissions can be reduced by an amount equivalent to the proportion of ammonia used. Since 2021, JERA has been carrying out practical trials of ammonia coal co-firing at its Heikinan thermal power station in Aichi Prefecture. The Heikinan thermal power station is among the biggest coal-fired thermal power plants by output in Japan and around the world. Co-firing is carried out by boilers at the heart of the facility.
This is our coal burner. The pipes connected to this burner carry ground and powdered coal and hot air to it, and then inside the boiler where it's fired. Of our 48 burners, we converted 2 of them to be able to process ammonia as part of a practical trial.
By modifying the burners, which typically process air and coal, to be able to co-fire ammonia, they plan to carry out the first large-scale practical trial in the world next fiscal year. They believe it will produce a significant benefit.
Stable electricity supply, low prices, and zero CO2 emissions are crucial. And it's necessary to balance these 3 elements. Using existing equipment and mixing and co-firing ammonia will make it possible to realize decarbonization at low cost and quickly while maintaining power output. That's the advantage of ammonia co-firing.
If successfully demonstrated, they say it is certain to contribute to decarbonization on a global scale beyond national boundaries.
For countries where adoption of renewable energy is difficult for some reason, which is often because of geographical factors, ammonia co-firing could become a savior for societies working towards decarbonization.
Currently, JERA and other energy firms face extreme difficulty in ensuring stable electricity supplies because of surging fossil fuel costs, resulting from the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Could this perhaps cloud the path toward decarbonization?
There's a scramble for fossil fuels because of surging prices and the impact of Russia. It's becoming extremely difficult to ensure stable supplies. We've re-acknowledged the priority we need to put on procuring energy. We recognize that it's vital for national security. As a country that lacks resources, we believe utilizing nuclear power in Japan, at this point, is a realistic option.
Kyushu Electric Power Company says it will continue to also focus on renewable energy, which it has been pushing to adopt in recent years. How do consulting firms plan to support the efforts of such companies?
Our company is looking to support the initiatives of businesses and society as a whole in various ways. As part of this, we've been involved in COP27 and sponsoring these meetings as a consulting firm, and plan to continue exploring solutions to these high-priority problems. We have been given the task of addressing two big themes: stable energy supply and procurement, plus decarbonization. So, as a company, we believe we need to apply our expertise and propose effective solutions to these problems.
Japanese companies have taken but the first steps in their challenge to go carbon-free. The long and uncertain path forward will require like-minded businesses to join hands and cooperate. The Nikkei Net Zero Committee will continue to play a foundational role to realize this vision.